Hi, good morning, everybody. Another nice day in the Highlands of Scotland. My name's Terry, and I'm still continuing my series in Genesis. And this is part 19, and I'm looking at Genesis chapter 16. And I've sort of said that this is we need to never underestimate God's power or His ability to perform whatever He wants to perform. And I'm just reading some scripture from 16 verse 1 onwards. It says, "Now Sarah, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian maidservant named Hagar. So she said to Abram, 'The Lord has kept me from having children, so sleep with my maidservant. Perhaps I can build a family through her.' Abram agreed to what Sarah had said. So Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years. Sarah, his wife, took her Egyptian maidservant and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with her and she conceived." Now, just some facts here about as Abram and Sarah saw them. Sarah was past normal childbearing age. Abram was getting older too. It had been 10 years since they'd arrived in what was supposed to be the land of Abraham's descendants. And based on these facts, Sarah and Abraham drew some conclusions. First, they concluded that God did not want Sarah to bear a child of her own. Second, they reasoned there must be something else they needed to do. So they concluded that Abraham should have a child through Hagar. But you see what's happened here? They didn't state all the information. A child of God must always figure into the equation. The fact that God is all powerful. So they didn't equate the fact that God was all powerful into their situation, because God could do anything He wanted to. And because they were children of God, they didn't they missed that somehow, that they didn't equate that God could do what He wanted to do. Second, they drew the wrong conclusion from the information they did have, because they didn't see all the options. They didn't even consider the fact that God might do something so extraordinary that everyone would realise that this promised child was something special, something extraordinary, and something very blessed, or someone very blessed. Instead, Abraham and Sarah concluded that God needed their help. God needed their help. It sounds funny that anyone would think that God needed their help, yet we all think that at times. Anytime we meet a delay, anytime it seems that God's methods are not working, we are quick to pitch in, as it were, to give God a hand. Well, when we believe we know better than God, we are acting like God. And that always gets us into trouble. Even when things don't seem to be working, we must never underestimate God's power or His ability to do. After all, when we read in Genesis, He spoke what wasn't into existence, so He can do whatever He wants. We need to trust God's timing. That's crucial. He has a purpose for every single delay that we come across. Sarah and Abraham interpreted God's delay as God's inability to do. But God's delays have many different reasons. Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes, "There's a time for everything, and He makes everything beautiful in His time." Sometimes God delays to make us holy. Sometimes God delays to prepare us for a task. Sometimes He delays to deal with some weakness in us. Sometimes He delays to strengthen our faith. Sometimes He delays even for the benefit of those who are watching. Sometimes He delays so He might give us the best and not just something adequate. Sometimes, God will delay an issue in our lives so we get the very best. Not just get by, but get the very best. Sometimes He delays for reasons only He knows, but the lessons the lesson is the same. God does not waste opportunities. He does not waste his silence, or he doesn't waste his time. There's a story I'm just going to read to you. It's a very powerful story of difference timing can make. Difference that timing can make. There was this once a fellow who, with his dad, farmed a little piece of land. You may have heard this, but several times a year they would load up their old ox-drawn cart with vegetables and go to the nearest city to sell their produce. Except for their name and the patch of ground, father and son had little in common. The old man believed in taking it easy. The boy was usually in a hurry, the go-getter type. One morning, bright and early, they hitched up the ox to the loaded cart and started their long journey. The son figured that if they walked faster, kept going all day and night, they'd make market by early the next morning. So he kept prodding the ox with a stick, urging the beast to move on. "Take it easy, son," said the old man. "You'll last longer. But if we get to the market ahead of the others, we'll have a better chance of getting good prices," argued the son. "No," replied the dad. No reply. The dad didn't just reply. Dad just pulled his hat over his eyes and fell asleep. On the seat, itchy and agitated, the young man kept goading the ox to walk faster. The ox, stubborn pace refused to change, so the ox just carried on like the father, just boing, boing, boing. 4 hours and 4 miles later on the road, they came to a little house. The father woke up, smiled and said, "Oh, there's your uncle's place. Let's stop and say hello." "But we've lost an hour already," complained the hotshot. "Then a few more minutes won't matter. My brother and I live so close, yet we see each other so seldom," the father answered. The boy fidgeted and fumed, while the two old men laughed and talked away almost an hour. On the move again, the man took his turn, leading the ox. As they approached the fork in the road, the father led the fox to the right. "The left is a shorter way," said the son. "I know it," replied the old man, "but this is a much better and much prettier way." "Have you no respect of time?" the young man asked impatiently. "Oh, I respect it very much. That's why I like to use it to look at beauty and enjoy each moment to the fullest." The winding path led through graceful meadows, wild flowers, and along the rippling stream, all of which the young man missed as he churned inside, preoccupied and boiling with anxiety. He didn't even notice how lovely the sunset was that day. Twilight found them in what looked like a huge, colourful garden. The old man breathed in the aroma, listened to the babbling brook, and pulled the ox to a halt. "Let's sleep here," he sighed. "This is the last trip I'm taking with you," snapped the son. "You're more interested in watching sunsets and smelling flowers than making money." "Why, that's the nicest thing you said to me in a long time," smiled the dad. A couple of minutes later he was snoring as the boy glared back at the stars. The night dragged slowly. The sun was restless. Before the sunrise, the young man hurriedly shook his father awake. They pitched up and went on. About a mile down the road they happened upon another farmer, a total stranger, trying to pull his horse and cart from a ditch. "Let's give him a hand," whispered the old man. "And lose more time," the boy exploded. "Relax, son. You might be in a ditch sometime yourself. You need to help others in need. Don't forget that." The boy looked away in anger. It was almost 8 o'clock in the morning by the time the other cart was back on the road. Suddenly a great flash split the sky. What sounded like thunder followed. Beyond the hills the sky grew dark. "Looks like a big rain in the city," said the old man. "If we had hurried, we'd be almost sold out by now," grumbled his son. "Take it easy. You'll last longer, and you'll enjoy life so much more," counselled the kind old man. It was late afternoon by the time they got to the hill overlooking the city. They stopped and stared down at it for a long, long, long time. Neither of them said a word. Finally the young man put his hand on the father's shoulder and said, "I see what you mean, Dad." They turned their cart round and began to roll slowly away from what once was the city of Hiroshima. God's timing is important. Are you facing a delay in your life? Is there a problem that continues to nag or a situation that continues to grind you? Don't despair, my friends. God's delays are not from inability but from wisdom. God's delays are not from inability but from wisdom. That old man knew rushing, in hindsight, would have been the death of the pair of them. But somehow delays saved them. So we need to focus on that sometimes when we're looking for something from God and it doesn't happen. God's timing is perfect. Have a great day and I'll see you again soon. Bye.